Okay, this is a once a year check. It's the work I do when I register the car. So this car's in New South Wales. So that's the, if it'll focus, that's the work I do. This information, the work I do is these things I write down because of previous breakdowns or things I notice that need to be done. Any trouble I have with the registration, I'll write it down so it doesn't happen again. The work I do is so that there's no problems with registration, and also I get a better idea of how the car's going or any potential future work. I can pick up while I'm doing this once a year check just before it goes in for a roadworthy or pink slip, but I think it's called something else now. The Holden rodeo was made in 1995. It's got a 2.6 high torque 4-cylinder motor. It's got a lot of low down grunt. I've done a lot of work to this car in the past. Now I'm getting all that time and money back. It's going really well. So far I've swept out the back, and I'll make this video as brief as possible. This one tonner is in a very high degree of roadworthiness. It's got 4 new tyres, and yeah, it's in good condition. Okay, so we'll start with giving the truck a wash. The list I've got is made up from previous problems and breakdowns from a previous car, and not just this car. If I want to save time and effort, I'll use a broom to clean the car, and the car wash seems to do a better job than dishwashing liquid. You can save money by using less water, and that makes your car wash to water ratio higher. So I usually have it fairly strong. The broom's good for hard to wash situations like the front grille, the rear windscreen, and the tray. But don't knock anything. You can knock things hard and possibly damage them. Use a small brush to clean the wheels and in underneath the tray. Also a very good thing to use for the lights. You want to use skin protection because you bang things with your knuckle, and of course that's not good. So, if you've got a truck like this, make sure to check the mud guards, that they're not loose. The reason the toolbox is white is because white reflects the light and so reflects the heat, and I've got all sorts of stuff in there, and it gets up to about 70 degrees in there, 60, 70 degrees from the sunlight. So when you paint something white, it reflects the light, and inside the same temperature is it's the same as outside. That is to say that on a very, very hot day it can get up to those temperatures. Okay, the next job is to take the car seat cover off, clean inside the cab, clean the windows inside. Okay, with the hazard lights on, only, okay, one side works, yeah. Okay, before with the hazard lights on, both sides were working, and when you put on the indicator, it wouldn't work. So, okay, I don't know how many people realise, but when you've got a fast flashing indicator like that, it means that one of your lights is out. So the other side is okay, and we've got a normal indicator speed, and when we put it to this side, it's a fast flash, which means that you need to replace the globe. Yeah, well, I didn't have to replace that globe. I just had to, I just got it out, had a look at it and put it back in, and off it goes again. Do them up by hand, otherwise you can crack the plastic. This work usually takes the best part of a day. Okay, this is a fairly important job. It's really a 2 times a year job. It's to clean the insides of all the windscreens. Front windscreen, door. Because when you've got the sunlight in your eyes, it's quite dangerous if you can't see. Okay, that's the outside and the inside of the car done. Doors, dash, seats, floor, windows and seats. Okay, next it's the fuel filter. So that fuel filter is now 1 year old, so I'll remove that and put on a new one. Okay, I undid this clamp and the clamp behind. I undid that nut there, and there's a clamp that goes around the filter, and then in reverse to replace it all. Remember, the flow is towards the flange, so you got the flange, and the rounded bit of the filter is at the back. Okay, now we'll do an experiment. We'll tip it out of the back of the filter, and we'll see if it was worth replacing the filter or not. Okay, so a lot of dirt in that. I suppose that comes from the fuel. Okay, now we'll start her up and look for leaks. Okay, next we're going to check the fluid level in the battery. This isn't a gel battery; it's an acid battery. If you've got a gel battery, you don't check the level of the gel. It'll be a sealed unit. You won't be able to lift up these parts here. But for this job, it's imperative. I don't use the old Italian or Greek language very often. It's imperative that you protect your skin and your eyes. Okay, you have to wear safety glasses and skin protection. If acid splashes up in your eyes or onto your skin, it can hurt your skin and it can damage your eyes. I highly recommend with this job you take it to a mechanic and just ask him to check the acid level in your battery. All this work I'm showing you is for somebody with good mechanical ability. So, okay, so we'll just lift this off. Okay, make sure the surface is clean. I checked this battery only about 4 months ago, so I'm expecting it to be good. So that's your cap, and I can see down there that it's fairly good. The water has gone down a fair way fairly recently, so yeah, with the hot weather through summer, I can see that a fair amount of water has evaporated. So that's a bit of a surprise to me. Okay, I'll put some more water in it. This is actually a 2 times a year job, so this should be done twice a year. It really is surprising how much this one's taking here. It's amazing. In fact, I think it was almost empty. That's very strange. Okay, I can just see it at the top now. Okay, that's done. Okay, this car is kept outside in the sun during summer, so that could explain it. So yeah, keep your car in a garage. Okay, next is to clean the air filter and the mass airflow sensor. So to remove the air filter, I have to remove the mass airflow sensor connection. So there's this little clip here. I've got to pry one end out and down, and the other side, and just work that down. And that's it, and I'll put that into a container. Okay, just 3 clips. One there, and there. And this part of it here, the air comes in, so this is part of the air filter. So it's a matter of sort of working that out and around. Okay. Actually, oh yeah, it's a bit grubby, yeah. Can do with a clean. It's by no means blocked, but it is a little bit dirty. Okay, now I'll let that soak. I'll spray it with a hose. I'll let it dry, and then that's clean. Okay, this is a mass airflow sensor. It's very important that it's kept spotlessly clean. The computer on this car gets all of its data for the fuel-air ratio mix from this sensor. The new cars have a sensor on the exhaust, and the computer uses that and the mass airflow sensor. But on this was built in '95, and this is the only sensor I think that it uses. So I'll just remove the top. Okay, anything you remove, put in a glass jar so you don't lose it. Okay, that's it there. Looks a bit like a brake light bulb. It's got a very similar sort of design. So we'll clean that now. Don't drop it. Okay, we don't want any residue, so I'm going to use methylated spirits. I'm going to use a delicate, small, fine bristle brush. Okay, that's almost dry. I know I'm not going to be starting this car for more than 12 hours, so I don't damage it or get any dirt on it. I'll carefully reinstall it, not touching the sides of where the sensor sits. Okay, next is the tappet cover, and on this one there's two nuts, and they're good. Okay, now I'll do my my weekly check, and I see it's not actually could use a little bit of coolant. This car has just been to Melbourne and back, and driven for 7 days around Melbourne, so it needs a tiny bit. Okay, the windscreen washer fluid has enough in the container. Now checking the belts. The belt to the alternator or generator is good, and to the steering pump is good. The power steering fluid is up to the right level, and I know it's fairly recently been renewed. The brake fluid is new and up to the right level, and the clutch fluid is new and up to the right level. I know the fuel pump is putting out 44 psi, which is the right pressure. Now the most important check is the engine oil, and the engine oil is new. It's just had a change, and so we take the dipstick out. Just clean the dipstick, put it back in. And we can see that it's up to the second hole, and it's good. nice and clean. You can smell it if you want, to make sure that it's not burnt. I highly recommend changing your oil every 5,000 kilometres or every 3,000 miles. Of course, when electric cars come out and available, there'll be less maintenance, but these days there's always a fair amount of maintenance work. On the list it says to flush the cooling system out and replace the coolant. I replaced the coolant a bit less than a year ago, so the coolant is new, and I know that the cooling system on this car is 100%. So there's nothing to be done there. It says to check for rust, so I'll have a look now. Okay, you may be able to see that the only rust this year is just there's a few nuts here holding this part in, and it's just developing a little bit of rust around that area there and there. I use the colour black with rust paint because black blocks out the light and stops the rust, but this has got a bit of a skin on the bottom of the top of the paint. Okay, next job is to check the brake pads. Okay, this video is for people again with mechanical ability. We're looking at the brake pad, which is situated down there, and I've got about 4 millimeters, and the brake pad is good. Make sure your wheels are chocked either side, and use a jack stand, and be very careful. As well as your jack stand, you can also put your front wheel under the front. I'll show you. So that's the front of the vehicle, and I've got my tyre there, and I've got a pine sleeper, and that's on the frame of the car. Okay, another check is with the wheel right up off the ground, and so that the wheel spins, and we have to check for wheel movement. So this way and that way. Okay, and that's good. If there was wheel movement, if you turned it that way and it's sort of knocked, then what you'd have to do is take off this cap here. There should be grease in there, and there's a big nut, and you have to go out and get the right socket and just tighten it up. Not too much. The wheel's still got to turn, but just tighten up that big bolt, and that there's a chance that might fix it. Like if there's a knocking noise when you turn it. If that doesn't fix it, it'll be a bushing on one of the ball joints. So, and that's a bit more complicated. You might want to get the shop to do that, or if you've got the time, just look into it and fix it. I've recently had 3 new tyres. It's got a total of 4 new tyres now. And when you put the wheel back on, you tighten these up excessively, and there's no way you'd be able to undo the nuts on the side of the road with something like this. So what you have to do, you have to get yourself a piece of strong steel like that. The thickness is about 5 millimeter, and So it's about, gee, I don't know, about 600 long. And you need to, on the side of the road when you're changing it, slip that over and you can undo it. But something like that you can't use, it's too weak, and this is the stronger version. You'll need one of these. I suppose it prevents sabotage and you know, idiots fooling around with your lug nuts. It's just too tight and they can't undo them. I beg your pardon, I didn't mean idiots, I meant low lives. Okay, and the other side wheel is good. Okay, it's 4 PM and like always you build up a lot of things that you've used around the place, and at this stage I usually have a pack up. I take plenty of breaks while I work, and you know, I don't really like the lifestyle where you're working hard all the time, so I don't do that anymore. Okay, I'll put that on a towel, and the towel can absorb and dry the filter out overnight, and they'll be ready to use in the morning. I can reuse the degreaser because it actually didn't get too dirty. Okay, well, it's the 14th of the 2nd, 2018, and in between the previous clip and this clip, the car's gone in for a roadworthy. And it got knocked back because of the condition of the seatbelt. Okay, that's the seatbelt there. That's the top attachment. And you can see there that it's worn and frayed. Okay, the next job is to check for exhaust leaks and to check for any cracks on the extractor there, and tighten up these bolts. There's 3, 1, 2, and there's one behind. So yeah, that's the header and the exhaust manifold and header. I had to replace this 1 or 2 years ago. It had cracked down around there, so I got that on eBay. I don't know why, but a 1532's socket fits perfectly. It's, I did back it off, but it was a bit loose. Okay, I had to remove the heat shroud, but a number of these nuts around the manifold were fairly loose. The header pipe was on securely. Okay, so that's it for this year. The main things were the exhaust manifold nuts were loose. The fuel filter was very dirty with a 1 year fuel filter. And the big surprise for me was the battery water or acid level was very low, and I just checked it a few months ago. Okay, this part of the video is about what to do if you've got a worn seat belt. I'm not an expert when it comes to seat belts. All I can do is pass on a bit of information that I've learnt recently. Okay, first of all, you can't swap a seat belt. In other words, you can't put a passenger seat belt on the driver's side. I have edited out some clips The clips shown are is accurate work though. So I'd just like to say that if you've got a worn seatbelt, instead of charging around everybody's backyards who's wrecking their car or going to wrecking yards, if I could do this work again, I'd definitely take the seatbelt to a seatbelt reconditioner. So you can send your seatbelt away to places that overhaul the seatbelt and replace the webbing. So yeah, this is a bit of a disclaimer for the following clips. If you're changing a bracket, making one bracket longer, you know, sometimes you'll get the seatbelt, but the lower bracket is longer or shorter. Get it welded. Don't just rely on the bolts. Get it welded as well. For your roadworthy, you must use the original mounting points. In other words, you'll have to use the stock standard seatbelt type. I found there wasn't much on my type of car out there on the web, and this is why I'm putting this video up instead of just throwing it out. It may be of use to somebody. The work's not done. I still have work to do. I'm in the process of replacing the driver's side seatbelt. This video is more or less random videos on how I repaired my seatbelt, rather than a how-to video. I have done some editing, but I thought rather than a lot of complicated editing, it was best to put a disclaimer and go from there. Okay, seat belts, that's the driver's side. So, and the top attachment. Okay, this is the seat belt that I've just got off this Holden Rodeo TF from 1995. Now that I've removed it, it won't release, you see. That's the details there. Looks like NSB 0371008. There's a 5614 and a 45895. But as you can see there, this is the body there. It's got two fixing points, but it won't release. It was working on the car in the cab, but now that I've removed it, and it must be wound back a certain way, it won't release anymore. Okay, well, surprise, surprise, there's actually nothing wrong with it. It has to be upright to work. If it's on its side, then or on its back, it won't release. But its weight, it's probably got something to do with that round metal ball there. So, okay, well, you live and learn. I'll put it back together and keep going. Okay, so this is how it works. If it's on its back, it won't release. But if it's stood up straight, then okay, so this is the top mounting point, and it's just got a plastic, we'll say, plastic washer on the outside. The bottom mechanism mounting bolt, there's two, there's one there and there's one up the top. That one seems to have one washer on the outside, we'll say, and Same here with that plastic washer. So all three have plastic washers on the outside, or probably Teflon actually. Okay, there it is, NSK Limited, type ELR XE 32057 E0, I think. Yeah, that's it. Okay, I've got a good focus on that. Okay, that's the new one there. As you can see, this mounting here is shorter than the one that came off my truck, and so I have to grind these rivets off and put this one on this one. I spent all day yesterday. I went to 3 large major wrecking yards, and they didn't have anything like it. These seat belts are very hard to come by these days. Apparently, from what I can see on eBay, you can buy this cluster here, and I'm not sure, but I think this part may come with it. So they're both the same, and I think you put your own bracket on the one you buy from eBay. If you're looking on eBay and it shows you a belt for the Holden rodeo, be careful, because this won't fit. This comes down here on this side. It looks like one side with the hook is there, but the other side, this is obviously wrong. When you go for a roadworthy, you have to use the original mounting areas, and if you get this one, it's only got one hole, and it'll only mount to the bottom hole. This one might have been okay, but as you can see, it doesn't. I don't think it's got or at least you can't see the mounting plates. I'm not sure, but I think with a dual cab, the front and the rear are the same. That says that it's a right-hand rear seat belt, and that looks exactly right. This is longer, so I think it'd fit my cab. Mine's a 95 and this is a 2000. It looks fairly similar, so the next model might fit, but take your own seat belt with you, and you might be able to match it up. Might be the same. Knowing what I know now, and knowing that you can interchange this part of the bracket, seems like at this point in time there's still plenty available. Okay, yeah, so I don't know if I've mentioned it, but this part is longer. It must have a longer webbing. It will be a little bit loose in the cab. You can see that's an extra, say 200 millimeters, but it'll do the job. Okay, I'll swap the mounting brackets around, and I'll show you what happens there. Okay, this bracket has been removed. It came from the back there. What you have to do is drill through, and you've got to remove both tops. Try and remove one rivet at a time, because it's heat welded to the back of the bracket. So you'll have to center punch, drill through, and grind off both rivets, and it'll fall through. Have to grind up and drill through this hole, 2 holes, remove the rest of the rivet. I'm going to use 2 high tensile nuts and bolts that are actually oversized to the holes, so they won't pass through. So I've got to get the exact width, and I'll bring them through, and I'll put lock nut on the nuts and do them up tightly. There's just no other way. It's just as I say, I've called around, I've spent hours on the internet. I spent a day yesterday going to 3 wrecking yards, large wrecking yards, and you know, then I'm sort of nosing around in somebody's private backyard with their car, trying to get you know, with guard dogs, and probably a lot of these people are armed, and it's just too labour intensive. So it's not an easy job to get the exact right bracket and one that's not worn out. This car's 23 years old now, so yeah, parts are beginning to get hard to find. Okay, so I've just drilled through the back, and you can see that the top of the rivet is now loose, so that might yeah, that's the top of the rivet there. But yeah, anyway, the guy who was wrecking his car was on the other side of town. You know, it's a good 2.5 hours travel. He sold me this for $50. If the seatbelt jams up, even if it's standing up the right way, what you'll have to do is just take off this cover. Don't take off this cover on this side, and just this lock-in mechanism, just unlock it and it should work again. Okay, I found that the bracket sat a little bit too far down from the nut there, so I had to bring the mechanism up, the seat belt up further. So what I did was I just ground out a little bit of this area here that allowed the seat belt to go up a bit, and now I'm able to use the bolt. Okay, so that's it. 2 high tensile bolts. There's lock nut in between the nut and the bolt, and that's done up very tightly. And I'd argue that that's the same, if not an even stronger connection. I'll now spray that with rust paint, black rust paint, and should be good to go. Okay, so there we go. And we've got the middle one there. That's the original stalk there, so that's a success. Okay, well, that's a long video, especially if you're watching this video combined with the 2018 rego work, or the year ahead's preparation. But yeah, that was quite involved. Okay, I still have to go to the mechanical shop to get it passed for the registration, and put everything back, the seat cover and everything else. So anyway, I'll wrap it up now. So I hope this video helped, and please like and subscribe. I sincerely hope that this helps if you have to renew your seat belt. So thanks for watching, and over and out.